While the chest is one of the most frequently trained muscles in the gym, there are still a lot of people that either struggle with technique, what exercises they need to do specifically, or have trouble growing their chest in the first place. Now when it comes to chest training in general, there are a couple of things we need to take in mind before initiating our exercises. The pectoralis is composed out of two parts, the pectoralis major and the pectoralis minor. Now, these are also called the clavicular or upper part and the sternal or lower part of the pec. These can be more or less targeted by changing the angle of the bench or fly to shift the emphasis from either the lower chest or the upper chest. The main biomechanical function of the chest is horizontal shoulder adduction. This means we need to simply bring our humerus or upper arm across our body in the horizontal plane. The pecs also aid in shoulder flexion, mainly coming from the upper pec, and internal rotation, and you can actually try this yourself by turning your arm inward and feeling your chest contract. Now most likely it's everybody's goal to maximize the entire chest development, so it's definitely important to have an effective exercise selection. Now I've selected 3 exercises to get the most out of your chest development that are best applicable in pretty much any training program in order to get the most out of your chest training. The first exercise is the flat barbell bench press. This can be seen as the bread and butter for your chest training, since it's a compound movement and thus most suitable for progressive overload. As for all muscle groups and exercises, it's always the goal to overload the exercise to promote muscular hypertrophy. Since you can load this exercise pretty heavily and get stronger in this exercise pretty efficiently as well, it's a solid choice to include in your chest training. Now some key things to focus on during the bench press are to retract and depress the shoulder blades before you initiate the exercise, so that you're putting the chest musculature in an efficient position to stretch and contract, while also simultaneously keeping your shoulders safe. What often ends up happening is that when we bench press, and especially with heavier loads, we're virtually pushing ourselves out of scapular retraction and depression, which means you're potentially overstretching your rotator cuff muscles, which often leads to injury. Ensure you're putting your elbows at a 45-degree angle, which puts the pecs in a better position to stretch and contract and keeps the tension off of the anterior deltoid. Also be sure to include a full range of motion, touching the chest with the bar and pressing the bar all the way up to recruit the most amount of muscle fibers, which is most effective to promote hypertrophy. Now in general, a rep range between 6 to 12 reps on the flat bench press with a big focus on progressive overload is extremely suitable to get the most out of this exercise. The next exercise is the incline dumbbell press, which will put more emphasis on the upper part of the chest. Now, since with dumbbells you have the freedom to work both pecs individually, you're minimizing the risk of creating muscular imbalances and allow for some greater range of motion, since you're not limited to a bar touching your chest on the eccentric part of the movement. Pick a weight that's heavy enough to stay in the 8 to 12 rep range with, since going lower than 8 reps might mean that the weight is pretty much too heavy, which increases the risk of injury since you have to stabilize the weight during the entire duration of the exercise. Now again, as with the flat barbell bench press, keep your elbows at around an angle of 45 degrees to maximize the tension on the chest, and keep your shoulder blades retracted and depressed throughout the entire exercise. A good tip for this exercise is to focus on bringing your elbows together as you press the weight up to maximize the activation of the pecs. Now, as we've gone over in the beginning of the video, the main function of the pecs is to horizontally adduct the shoulders. So by focusing on bringing your elbows in closer together as you go through the concentric part of the movement, you're most likely going to feel a better squeeze. Just be sure not to touch the dumbbells together as you press the weight up, since that will take the tension off of the chest muscles. Now the last exercise is the chest fly. Now there are multiple chest fly variations that you can choose from, but I highly recommend going with either a machine fly or a cable fly, since the tension is far greater throughout both the concentric and the eccentric, as you barely have any tension going through the concentric of a dumbbell fly and pretty much only get the stretch mechanism as your best buck. You can change the angle from low to high to get more upper chest activation, or from high to low to get a more lower chest dominant fly, but in my opinion, putting the cables in the middle will ensure a pretty even upper and lower chest stimulation. Keep your arms pretty straight, but not fully locked to ensure maximal chest stimulation, while keeping the biceps and the triceps out of the exercise. Keep in mind, this is an isolation exercise, so you don't need to perform this one too heavy. Keep that for the more compound based movement like the flat barbell bench press and the incline dumbbell press. Focus on getting a good squeeze in the chest as you go through the concentric and a slow, controlled stretch as you go through the eccentric part of the movement. Again, since it's an isolation exercise, you can go a little bit higher in reps, as there is definitely some merit to including a wide variety of rep ranges. So for the fly, I recommend keeping it in the 15 to 20 rep range, since any lower than that might mean that the weight is a little bit too heavy to keep the tension on the chest maximally. And any higher than 20 reps might mean that the weight is a little bit too light, so 15 to 20 reps can definitely be a good sweet spot for any chest fly variation. Now, a good progression method on all of these three exercises can be to either increase the sets, increase the reps when you can, or increase the weight when you can. Progressive overload comes in a variety of components, so choose the one that's most applicable for you and your training program. Now typically, I'd increase the weight, sets and reps throughout a 5 to 8 week period on the flat bench press and the dumbbell press, and simply up the sets and reps on the fly to get the most out of your chest training and progression. These are my top 3 exercises to get the most out of your chest development and growth in order to create a bigger chest. And that is all for this video, guys. I sincerely hope you all enjoyed. If you have any questions regarding the exercises that I showcased in this video, then please let me know in the comment section down below. If you're interested in taking your physique to the next level, then visit my website www.ginobrouwers.com. If you enjoyed the video, please smash the like button because it really helps out the channel grow. Comment down below and subscribe to the channel and turn post notifications on for so much more content coming really soon. I'm out, guys, and peace out. See you in the next one.